What's going on, everyone? It's Chris here, and now that it's springtime, it's time to get back to what we love doing, and that's getting back to work on our lawns. Now that winter's over, we want to start prepping our lawn for spring in order to make our grass the best it can be coming out of those long, cold winter months. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with a few friends of mine over in the Lawn Care Ontario Facebook group and talk about steps that you can take to make your lawn the best it can be this spring to make sure that you're getting the maximum amount of success that you can going into the long, hot, dry summer months. Now, we had some issues recording the start of the video, so there's a couple sections that were missed. And what I'm going to do is when we start the actual Q&A Zoom video that's coming up shortly, I'm going to link to some topics I talked about last year in my spring lawn video that'll cover some of the things that we ended up missing, which covers the equipment maintenance for your lawnmower, sharpening your lawnmower blades, getting your grass ready, cleaning it up, getting the debris off that, and taking some soil samples as well. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I look forward to posting more content in the next week or so. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll chat with you soon.
Welcome everyone to this informal Zoom meeting. Spring is in the air. Check out the Lawn Care Ontario website with lots of information on how to take care of your lawns. If you have any comments, please unmute yourself. We did have some glitches starting up this meeting, so I will be posting this and might have a follow-up meeting in a week's time to try this again. I'm sorry for that. So we were just talking about equipment maintenance and prep. Basically, change your oil, spark plug, make sure the deck underneath your lawnmower is clean to get maximum updraft to stand up the grass blades, and don't forget to sharpen your blades to cut the grass nicely. Otherwise, you will end up tearing your grass and causing browning and possibly fungal infection. In terms of soil sampling, Chris was telling us that you can send off soil samples to the University of Guelph, where they charge roughly about $40 to analyze your soil to see what it contains, what it's deficient in. They do give you some tips on what to make your soil a little more conducive to having a healthy lawn. And we just talked about surface prep right now, dethatching, raking, and aeration. The consensus is raking is a good idea just to get off the dead debris and loosen up the grass so that a lot of air and sunlight can get down to the roots. Next order of topic is fertilization. What do you guys think about fertilizing your grass right now? Is it time to do it?
Again, this is user preference, but I will actually throw down some starter fertilizer actually fairly early in the season. I'm probably a few days to a week out from doing this. Starter fertilizer isn't just for obviously getting new grass seeds sown in. It's a great start to get your grass growing in the spring because it contains all three nutrients. You got your nitrogen, your NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and I can't say right now. Thank you. Yeah, and for me, I'm a huge believer in starting off with small doses starter fertilizer, and I'd get that down probably sooner rather than later. I wouldn't throw a ton of nitrogen at it right away, but this is just more to kind of help things give it a bit of a quick, bit of a kickstart.
Now, what I've learned from our group in the past is I used to bulk fertilize, which means I just fertilize twice in the whole season, once in the spring and once in the fall. But talking to the experts, it seems like spoon feeding is the way to go. And for those of you who are not familiar with spoon feeding is just a way of adding your fertilizer in smaller doses, but consistently and constantly throughout the growing season, throughout spring, maybe slow down a bit in the summer and a bit more in the fall. Any comments on that, guys?
Yeah, I was going to say, one thing that I learned last year is to fertilize in the fall as soon as the grass stops growing. And the benefit of that is you're putting all the nitrogen and all the other nutrients into the soil in preparation for the spring. So when the grass does start to germinate in the spring, it's already got the fertilizer in the ground. So there's that perspective as well. And my grass is already coming up green this past week.
Huge believer in that, Chris. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, the last thing you should be doing in the fall, again, when things will slow down, you can throw a fall fertilizer down, and again, it really depends on what you want to use. Some people hate it, some people love it, but yeah, absolutely, 100% agree, Chris.
Any particular type that you guys are using?
No, just anything with lots of nitrogen, the bottom of your bag. Just throwing down whatever you can, high nitrogen, just before the spring. And I'm trying to look for the temperature here that I was looking for in the fall. Sorry, I didn't come prepared with that, but there is a particular temperature, so you don't want to throw it down too early, and then the grass still uses it in the fall. The idea is that the grass is not going to use it in the fall, and it's going to be there ready in the spring.
Now, did you guys say it's too early to put down the fertilizer? Should I wait for a couple more weeks, or?
What do you think, Vale?
I usually throw down a bit of starter fertilizer once temperatures start warming up a little bit. For me, I mean, for us here, I guess, Dave, you're in the south of Ajax. I'm in the south of Oshawa. Chris, you're not too far away from us up in the north of Oshawa, but my front yard's already growing. So I don't really see any harm in throwing down a bit of starter fertilizer now in order to get that, to kind of kickstart that and get growing.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure this time last year, because of the mild temperatures, I was actually already mowing this time last year.
Wow.
It's with the winter that we've had this year. We're not there yet, but another couple of weeks.
Here's another thing to think about, though, is Vale, you might be able to remember off the top of your head, but you only have a certain amount of pounds per N per year that you can apply. So if you're applying early April, you're taking away from applications that you could be applying later in the season. So you also want to look at it as a timing thing, especially if you want to spoon feed, you're going to have to divide that N by how many weeks that you want to apply between now and October, or maybe May and October. And the more weeks that you're dividing that up, the smaller those portions are going to be. So there's that perspective as well. Do you want to get started too early? And then there might be an argument that it could be too early in the game if you want to spread out and you don't want to go over the maximum amount of N per year.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you're correct in that assessment for sure, because obviously the majority of the fertilizing you want to do in terms of a nitrogen standpoint, you want to try and save for that late summer, early fall. And, if you're using your urea fertilizer, I'll use urea in the late summer and early fall. And the majority of my nitrogen ends up down on the ground during those parts of the season.
Just as a reminder, this Zoom session is only 40 minutes. If we should get cut off, just log on again and it'll give us another 40 minutes if we're not finished. Next thing I want to talk about is overseeding. I know over the winter, I've had some critter damage on my lawn where some sections of it has just been brutally killed. So I've actually started overseeding this area and putting soil on top. What do you guys think about doing that now?
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say, for overseeding, I'm going to wait till fall. 5 areas that I need to fix. If like you said, there's damage or something like that from voles or mice or from snow, then yeah, I'm going to do it in the fall or in the spring for sure. As far as a total overseed for the entire lawn, I'm in the camp of wait until fall. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. I share those same sentiments. I mean, you're running into many issues if you try to do a full overseed in the spring. obviously your biggest issue is going to be the heat of the summer, and those seeds aren't going to have enough time to germinate and root properly. And then the heat of the summer will actually probably do more damage to your lawn than it'll actually help. And that's why you should probably wait until around, your mid to late August to do a full overseed.
I have a quick question, guys. For the novice who are just learning how to properly take care of their lawn, are we saying then that we should be doing some general seeding now, or actually waiting a few weeks, like do the fertilizer within the next couple of weeks and then wait to do the seeding, or seeding right after we fertilize as well?
So for me, I just did a light rake this past week.
So did I.
Yeah, and for the most part, most of my lawn is good, but I found a section in my backyard where I was taking up thatch and grass, and there's just some bare areas in there. I'm definitely going to fix that in the spring, and that's the time when I'm seeding. I'm going to apply my starter fertilizer, because that's the proper time to apply a starter fertilizer when you're seeding. So that would be my ideology, is if I have stuff to fix, I don't want to leave that all summer. I'm going to have bare spots all summer. I want to fix that now. But as far as a total overseeding going over my entire lawn, I'm going to wait until fall for that.
Okay, but not overseeding, just general seeding is my real question.
What's the
Yeah,
difference?
if you're doing
Like some
general
bare spots?
overseeding over the whole lawn, the consensus is maybe do that in the fall. But if you do have some bare areas that need to be fixed, then now is the time to do that.
Okay.
Sure. What do you mean by general seeding? Maybe
Like, normally I put down some seeds to help fill up my lawn because it's always sparse. So it's not that I have patches, it's just sparse. It's not thick and lush like Mr. Ho's lawn.
yeah. So I think I think that would still be overseeding.
Is
Right.
it? Okay.
Yeah. So if you
So
got
overseeding is really in the fall, not
Yeah.
in the spring.
Yeah.
but it's your
It
lawn.
depends on how sparse it is, Cheryl.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
If you can't look
you're
at
working
it,
with a bare
then-
lawn,
Yeah, if you can't look at it and you're not going to be able to deal with those spots, then I would definitely do something.
Okay, thanks.
I just got a notice that we got 10 minutes left. So once again, if we get cut off, just log on to the same thing with the same meeting number and passcode. In terms of the seeds itself, do you guys have a monoculture? Like, do you have just perennial ryegrass or tall fescue or
I do not.
bluegrass?
I do not at all.
I got a
Um,
mix match.
Okay, you got a mix. Yeah, I got a mix too. I'm really loving the Kentucky bluegrass because even though that is the grass that takes the longest to germinate, it does have healing properties. It looks like the Kentucky bluegrass, if you get some sparse areas, it will send out some of these branching arms. They're called rhizomes that will actually sprout new grass growth. But I do know.
Go ahead, David. Sorry. Didn't mean to
But
cut
I
off.
do know some people that like to keep it a monoculture, which means either perennial ryegrass or Kentucky bluegrass or tall fescue. Tall fescue and ryegrass seem to germinate pretty quick, like 7 days. So that's why people like putting that down on bare soil.
Yeah, I actually did a mono stands reno out my backyard a couple of years ago. It was just 100% pure turf type tall fescue. And I was kind of the poster child. I'm like, hey, this looked great at the start. But then the problem is, if you were me, and the mistake I made is I put it down far too heavy. I have run into nothing but problems since because I put that down way too heavy.
Wow.
What problems did you have?
Yeah.
So I got a lot of die off in it. I mean, so it's been very, very hard to recover. I mean, now turf type tall fescue in the spring, it is the slowest grass to green up in the spring. It'll green up. Don't worry about it if you have it. But yeah, never try to go too much over the recommended seed rate. So I do have some die off in there. I'm gonna have to address some areas back there this year.
Okay. Now, interestingly enough, talking about seeding and fertilizing, we did have a post on Lawn Care Ontario about certain spreaders. This one guy posted that his Scott's Fertilizer, the one with the hopper, and it's a broadcast spreader. So the seeds go down the hopper, which is basically a container, and there's a disc which spits out the material that you're spreading over the lawn. And for me, I think a broadcast spreader gives the best even coverage as opposed to a drop spreader or the handheld crank one that you're walking on your lawn.
Mm-hmm.
What are your input on that?
Yeah, I did see the post in question. I saw that today. We really don't have a lot available to us up here unless we're shopping at some specialty store on Amazon or the States or whatever. I mean, pretty much all we have is those Scott's, and I think there's another brand. I know Scott's does offer one, I think, at Costco that actually has it's much larger. I think it's much better suited for larger lawns, but I think for what we have and the size of the normal residential lawn, I think those Scott's broadcast spreaders work very well.
Yeah,
I'll actually need to buy a new one this year. Mine's a little past its due date.
Walmart.
Walmart.
Yeah, I never had those problems with that. I think it was Andre posted there. It was very interesting. I don't know. I wonder if it was just the unit that he had, or
possible.
Yeah,
but I much prefer those because when it's actually spreading the material, whether it be fertilizer or seed, it's doing it at a very low level. If you're using those hand crank ones, you're like 3-4 feet off the floor, and when the wind catches that, it blows it everywhere, and then half your thing ends up in the street. So you want to spread it as low as you can to the floor. So these broadcast spreaders are great.
Absolutely. And then the one thing I'll say for sure is, absolutely go in both directions, north, south, east, west, half one, half the other. That way, you're kind of taking the fudge factor out of it and you're getting nice even coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you have the hopper open to the correct setting as well.
That's true.
But
that's true. Sure that edge guard is turned on and off at the appropriate times too.
Yeah, and that's why I like that little DLX is it has the edge guard, right? Yep. I hated using the walk around handheld one and getting half of it on the driveway, right? So there could be better models out there, better quality, but just something better than just walk around with your hand. And I think it's important that people learn how to read the label of fertilizers and how to do the math. Anyone that approaches me and asks me questions about their lawn, like the first thing you got to do is measure your lawn. You can't just be filling up the hopper and walking around with fertilizer. Every fertilizer, every product is going to be different, right? Yep. One product might be 2.6 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Another one might be 3.5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. And the size of the prills might be different, right? So you have to do the math. You have to measure your lawn. You got to know how much each section is. And then you got to do the math of how many pounds of product for that particular product that you're using, how much product that you need for that square footage. So that's very important to know.
That's actually a great idea. I should probably do a video on that.
Yeah, you know what? Something that would be pretty helpful that I found is that if you go on to Google Earth and zoom in close to your house where you can see all the green grass lawn area, you can actually calculate the square footage of grass that you have. To do that, just go onto Google and see how to calculate like an area on the Google Maps or Google Earth. It's one or the other.
Yeah, you can pinpoint draw right around your entire property. It's fantastic. It's not going to be 100%, but it's going to be fairly close.
Yeah. And again, you're closer to hitting the bullseye versus just cutting the bag open, pouring a bunch of product into a hopper and hoping and praying, right? At least you're getting closer to that fudge factor that LCN refers to, where if you apply 2.9 pounds per 1,000 square feet, that's not too bad. But if you applied 6 pounds per 1,000 square feet, then you might actually be doing some damage. So,
yeah. Okay, next topic. Are you guys going to spread topsoil over your lawn in the spring or not? Top dressing. What are you guys doing? What are you guys thinking?
This
that's
year,
always
I'm
a
not.
risk.
What's the risk in doing that, Chris?
Introducing weed seeds into your lawn. So you don't really know what you're getting, right? But I think if you're mowing tall and you're out in your lawn manually removing weeds for the most part, you have a post-emergent product to use. If stuff starts coming up, then I don't think it's too big of a deal, but that is part of the risk there that I'd always be concerned about. And yes. I still have some sand and some topsoil at the side of my house from 2021. I bought way too much, sitting in bags. I opened it up last spring. So this is a canvas bag that you see at the landscape places that they put product in and lift it onto the trucks. I bought 2 of those bags. So there's no sun penetration, right? There's no air. They're completely tied up, so no moisture can get in. As soon as I opened it up, there were weeds growing out of the topsoil. Wow. So it just goes to prove that it doesn't matter where you're getting it, there can be, and there probably most likely is, some weed seeds in there.
Okay, guys, we're going to cut out in less than a minute. So once again, click back onto the link when we do get cut off. Which
it might be nice and give us an extra 10 minutes. Zoom's usually good like that. Let's see.
Oh, okay. So if we get cut off.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing for watering? Are you letting Mother Nature take its course, or are you going to start watering your lawn?
Right now?
Yes.
I don't think it needs it right now.
Okay.
Well, I don't think so right now. I mean, I think April. Fire away.
Okay. We're back on.
I was just going to say, David, in regards to knowing when and if you need to irrigate your lawn, one thing that I learned, and I took my game a step further, is I actually purchased a soil probe from Amazon last year. I bit the bullet. But that's the only way you're really going to know how much moisture is in your soil in different sections of your lawn. Not every section of your lawn is going to require any irrigation, but the only way you're going to know is by seeing how much moisture there is down by the roots.
Yeah, I actually purchased a soil probe off of Amazon last year. It had a moisture meter, a pH meter, as well as a temperature. So
I'm not referring to a probe like a temperature probe. I'm referring to taking a soil probe. It takes a
sample, a core sample.
Yes, a core. Right. So you can actually see your roots. You can see how deep your roots are getting. You can see how much moisture is in the soil. So if it's muddy, then there's lots of moisture down there. If it starts crumbling up like dry dust, you definitely need to get moisture down there. The other thing to consider is that you can test your irrigation. So let's say you're trying to get down a full inch of water. After you irrigate, you can take another probe and see how deep your water is actually getting, and is it getting to the bottom of the roots and getting the roots to chase the water down, right? So a probe can give you that idea, but I know some people just go the old-fashioned way, stick a screwdriver in the ground, and does it go down easy like peanut butter? Then you're good. If it's kind of stuck and you can't get it through, then maybe it's too dry.
Okay, good to know. And in terms of watering, are you guys doing it frequently throughout the week when it does need it during the summer months when it's drier, or are you twice a week, but you do it for a long period of time? What's
I'm definitely probably in the twice a week camp. If it needs it, if we don't have if we've gone through a prolonged dry spell. I think the best rule of thumb, and Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well, but deep and infrequent watering is best. The problem is if you want to go ahead and start watering your lawn every day, I think you're going to start running into issues where you start developing shallow roots, and those roots aren't getting deep enough into the lawn to help establish things. So I'm in the camp of twice a week, when needed.
Yeah, and that's where the probe actually lets you know what is needed. You might be for a week or two only needing it once a week. Get into a dry spell, maybe you need it 3 times a week, right? Just depends on how much water is evaporating out of the soil each day, right? So, but definitely as infrequent as possible, because like you said, you want to get the roots to chase the water down to the soil so you get stronger roots.
So you're looking at twice a week, roughly?
Maybe no times a week. Again, that's it all depends on what the soil is telling me at this point.
Okay.
Right. And water's not cheap if you look at your sewage costs,
I know.
right?
My God. You know what? It's the sewage part that kills me.
Exactly.
The water isn't that expensive, but the recycling of water, even though it's going on the lawn, that kills me.
So that's why I'm trying to preserve as much water. I only want to use it if I really absolutely need it. Right.
And your lawn's going to tell you, especially in the long dry spells in summer. And it's like, if your lawn starts wilting and turning brown, then, you have to water.
Okay.
Also remember it's not your entire lawn. I mentioned earlier about measuring out your lawn and having different sections. You can have different even sections divided up into different sections, as far as there might be a tree in one section that is, providing shade. You might not need to irrigate that area under the tree as much as the other areas that are getting more sun exposure. So people need to take into consideration that perspective as well, is that not your entire lawn necessarily needs water or irrigation every time that you need to water.
Having a big tree is sometimes a double-edged sword, because you're correct. It provides a lot of shade, which means there's less evaporation. Right. But then trees require a lot of water themselves. So there's a lot of roots around there, which will suck up the water. So you gotta watch out to see, to test the soil around the tree, because the trees could have extensive roots that are sucking up a lot of the water, taking it away from your lawn. So definitely keep an eye on the soil sampling around trees.
You definitely don't want too much water in those areas as well. That's where you start getting into possible fungus, right? Or even moss, right? So
sorry, can I just jump in there? I guess for anyone that's watching this, it's best time to water is early in the morning. Just piggybacking on what Chris just said with the moss issue and the fungus issue. If you start watering your lawn at night, that's when you're actually going to start running into those fungus and moss issues.
100%.
So early in the morning, if possible. And if you have a timer, and if you have a timer on your on whatever you have set up, absolutely set it up and take a hands-off approach.
But if life gets in the way, and the only time that you can water is in the evening, give her. 100%. Right?
Water is better than no water.
Exactly.
I heard someone say that 80% of your lawn issues come from watering not enough. So watering is very, very important.
Or watering too much.
Yes, or watering too much. Yeah.
Because that's what we learned from Lawn Ginger last year, is most of the time it comes down to irrigation.
Yeah.
Most issues, right? So
okay, so I have a question for watering. If you know you're going to cut your lawn tomorrow, would you water tonight or would you water after you cut? Or does it make a difference?
I don't know that I've ever really even noticed what I do personally. Most oftentimes I think I'm cutting later in the day because that's just when, for me, that's when life says I have to cut. I'll water in the morning. I'm usually not mowing the same day personally, but I've never really kept track of it.
Personally, I'm just not watering before I mow.
Yes,
100%.
because that would be terrible.
If anything, I would water after I mowed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially
like
if I'm mowing in the morning or midday and it's a hot day. I want to water after I mow just to cool down those grass blades if it's going to be a hot day, especially after I just cut them. So that would be my perspective on that.
Yeah. Weed control. Are there any Canadian products out there that will help us?
100%. It's called a Frisker's weed pulling tool. A little bit of elbow grease, right?
Eco-friendly.
Exactly.
Not
Approved
banned
in
by-
the province
not banned
of
by the
Ontario.
government.
But when do you start putting down your weed killer, guys?
55. That's when everything starts to germinate.
About 10 degrees Celsius. About 10 degrees Celsius.
10 to 12. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 to 12.
10 to 12 for consistent days, or just like any random
Soil.
This
day?
is
Soil
actual
temperature.
this is soil temperature.
Yeah.
That we're talking about
okay.
here. So if you don't have a soil thermometer, you can buy a soil thermometer, or you can actually just use one of your
A
barbecue.
meat thermometer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
meat thermometer. They work too.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also consistently 10. And you want to look at the forecast. You don't want to see any snow in the forecast. I don't know if anyone's part of the Ottawa group, but there were some last week that wanted to throw her down last week. And 2 days later, their lawns were covered with snow, right? So everyone's eager to get out there and get their lawns looking great. But sometimes the tortoise and the hare comes into play. And I think sometimes the tortoise can win in this game if you're just patient, right?
Yeah. So. I've got an issue near the curb edge of my lawn. Rogers and Bell took turns last year tearing up my lawn and my neighbor's lawn. Well, Bell specifically because they're doing a huge fiber install. So now I've got a problem where I've got yarrow growing at the edge, and it's already starting to sprout. I would love nothing more than to go out and just hit it with something I probably shouldn't hit it with. But time is of the patience is best here. Just wait till those temperatures are consistent.
Yeah, and if you do have product, you don't want to waste it.
Yeah.
By applying it before the weed seeds germinate. If you apply it too early, and then you get a frost, it's going to be another week or two before they start germinating, and you can only put a certain amount of product per season. Exactly. Right? So you don't want to waste that product. So there is, a benefit to being patient with that as well.
I'm going to make a comment that I'm sure I'll get some chuckles, but have you tried the corn gluten weed deterrent?
So I think there's some people that like the Scott's DLX broadcast spreader, and some that don't. I think there's the same camp with the corn gluten. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this: how often do you want to mow your lawn? So, I mean, the big thing is with that stuff, it's, have I used it before? Absolutely, I have, with limited success. The biggest thing that people don't know about it is Scott actually got very, very crafty in doing this. They no longer publish the nitrogen content on the bag if you actually look at it.
Oh, no?
They haven't for a couple of years. So the issue with corn gluten meal, It contains about 10 pounds of nitrogen, or not 10 pounds of nitrogen in the bag, but
10%.
10% nitrogen in the bag. And those bags are 20 pounds. So you need to put down 20 pounds of product to cover 1,000 square feet. So doing your quick basic math, you put a whole bag down on my 1,000 square foot lawn on the front. I've already put 2 pounds of nitrogen down on my lawn, and that's to start off the season.
Yeah.
But
And that's taking away from your yearly app amount as
exactly.
well, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So, do you guys recommend any good Canadian products that people can use to control weed besides the Friska weed remover manually?
Just post-emergence, but nothing for crabgrass that I know of.
Yeah.
I've had some okay results with Weed Be Gone, right, post-emergent, but
Yeah. To tell you the truth,
crabgrass.
yeah, to tell you the truth, I don't mind crabgrass too much because they're easy to pull out.
If you get them early, right?
Yeah.
If you, and that's another reason why I posted to walk your lawn every day.
Yeah.
And the crabgrass stands out. It's lime green, and if you can see those leaves, and once you get down in and you actually put your fingers around it, you can see that the stems of the crabgrass are thicker than the rest of your grass. Just pull them up by hand, and that's how I'm treating my lawn with my neighbor's grass that's full of crabgrass, and trying to keep my line of domination. I'm just plucking out those little crabgrasses as soon as they germinate and they pop up. I'm pulling them out by hand, and it's just by finger. Doesn't take much force to pull them out. It's when they start spreading with big legs that you really gotta get in there, and it's by that time it's pretty much too late, right?
Now, do you find that crabgrass grows more on the edges of your lawn?
100%. It's attracted to heat. Right.
Okay.
So that's where you see crabgrass around the curb edge, driveway edge, sidewalk edge, because that's where the heat is. And that was the other perspective of me posting the other day about the temperature difference, right, on my lawn. It was 1 degree difference. The closer to the curb edge is warmer, and that's where my grass is already starting to turn green.
Yeah.
Whereas in the middle of my grass, it's still a little bit mix of yellow and green. Right. So it definitely, the temperature of the soil, just, it's not just about when to fertilize, but it's when things start happening underneath. Right.
Next topic is grub control or insect infestations. Now, typically grubs form in the May because most grubs will emerge as some form of a beetle for June. So is now the time to start laying down some grub control. And what do you guys think about Grub Be Gone from Home Depot? Does it work? Or are you guys going to use nematodes, which is the natural way to control grubs? What do you guys think?
I think I've been fortunately lucky where I am that it's never been an issue for me. So I've never actually had to put down any product relating to that. So Chris, I don't know if you've ever experienced any issues with this. I'm glad to hand this one over to you.
Yeah, I've been trying to fight the Japanese beetles with nematodes the past couple of years. One thing, if you guys remember, that we learned from lawn ginger is that's another win for dethatching, just to fight the beetles from laying their eggs and giving them a nice place for those eggs to hatch. So good reason to dethatch as well. But nematodes in the spring is supposed to work. I'm going to see if they work this year. But I've always had a challenge with Japanese beetles. Not fun.
Yeah, for some reason, I've never been plagued with grub issues until last year for some reason. And I did try the nematodes and they were successful. I was going to try the Grub Be Gone from Scott's, but I didn't try it. I was just wondering if you guys ever tried that or.
I haven't. I don't know many people who have. I mean, I think the issue up here is it's much different formula than our friends to the south have, just because of our pesticide laws up here. And boy, is that stuff expensive.
Hmm.
$45 for a small bag, and I think it's like $90 for a large bag. Yeah, it's super expensive.
Wow.
I mean, if you can stick to the nematodes as much as you can, I'm sure that is a much cheaper option than going with the Grub X. I think that's a good actually a great question to post to the group to see if anyone's actually ever used it and see what type of success they've actually had with it.
Pest control, moles, voles, raccoons. Have you guys encountered any issues with that? I certainly have. I believe my lawn was affected by voles. Voles, if you don't know, are small rodents, smaller than a mole, but I think a bit larger than a field mouse. And they like to burrow underneath the ground, and they like to chew up the roots, as well as eat any grubs or worms or insects underneath the ground. So what happened is a big section of my lawn, approximately, I don't know, 10 by 15 feet, was affected by these voles, and the whole area, just the grass just died over there. And I actually had to dethatch this area really well to scrape off all the dead grass, which pulled up rather easily. And I put down some seeds and put some topsoil, top dressing on top. So I'm hoping that will take in the next few weeks. But have you guys ever encountered any issues like that? And how do you deal with it?
Not myself. I think I would do the same thing that you're doing, David. And it's, part of the reason why you never know what's going to happen from 1 year to the next. 1 year you don't have any issues with voles, and the next year that you do. So you just got to kind of roll with the punches and see what happens from 1 year to the next, and do what you feel needs to be done, right?
Yeah, and I think one issue I had in my backyard 1 year, and it never happened since. I had a bunch of holes, and I don't know if they're chipmunks. They weren't voles because they didn't leave those long burrows. But I had these little holes all over my half of my backyard, and I'm thinking maybe it was mice, maybe it's chipmunks. I don't know what it was. Again, I just dethatched my head in those areas, overseeded like you did, and the problem solved itself. Luckily, I haven't had it ever since. But yeah, if you catch it early enough, just do a quick dethatch and get some seed down fairly quickly, and hopefully you can fill in those bare areas before you have to wait till fall to do a full overseed.
You know, it was funny. These small holes, I had them either last year or the year before, and I wanted to flush out the critter from basically making a underground tunneling village underneath my lawn. So I decided to stick a water hose down one of those holes and turn on the water tap. And I'm thinking, okay, in like 2 minutes, it's going to be gushing back water. But man, I was there for half an hour with the tap full on and nothing came out. So
well, something came out. I think there was cash coming out of your wallet when that water bill came in.
That was the underground irrigation system right there. But those tracks that they have are extensive, because I must have dumped 10 gallons of water down there and nothing came back out. So it's extensive tunneling down there.
Interesting.
Well, yeah. Well, those are the topics that I wanted to basically hit for tonight for the spring lawn prep, what to get ready for. And it seems like pretty much now is the time to start getting the ball rolling on these things, as I'm sure by Easter weekend, next weekend, temperatures are probably going to be pretty prime for us to start going on our lawns. So to both Chris's, any last words of advice?
Yeah, just absolutely. If there's anyone ever has any questions, I mean, absolutely reach out, post to the group. We have a lot of people on there who are experts and are ready and willing to help with any questions you might have.
By the way, Chris Vale has his own YouTube channel. It's the Lawn Canuck. So check that out. He posts really interesting videos. And I believe he's a diehard Leafs fan. Go Leafs.
I'm a diehard Leafs fan, and I once again showed up to one of these things, and I wasn't matching Chris with his Bills shirt, and I'm a huge Bills fan. So, and I should have known, and I said something last time too, and I'm just like, damn it. The second I saw you pop on, I'm like, you did it again.
I just happen to have the same sweater on, buddy.
There you go.
You caught me. I only got 2 sweaters. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, you know, I'm no professional or anything like that. I just share what I know. So hit me up on DM if you have any questions. I'm always willing to share what I've learned.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot for attending. I'm gonna video edit this so we have the first and second session together, and I will post it on the Lawn Care Ontario website. Sorry, not website, but Facebook group, as well as my personal Facebook account. And if there seems to be enough interest, would you guys be willing to come back maybe in a week's time or 2 weeks to just wrap this thing up and answer any questions?
Sure.
Is that okay with you guys? All right. Cheryl, hope we answered any questions that you may have had.
It's always a pleasure to join. I always learn something new.
Super duper. All right,
Take care,
guys.
girl.
Have a super Sunday night.
You too,
Thank
buddy.
you.
You guys.
All right, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.